Hi, my name is Nadine Sierra, and this is Living the Classical Life.
I'm not nervous.
I
I'm
love
so
this.
going to have fun with this. Nadine, thank you so much for being on Living the Classical Life. It's a very busy time for you because you're singing Susanna at Marriage of Figaro right now. I'll just start out by saying that you are very young and you're already singing at the Met.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Did you feel like you had to, in your musical trajectory so far, succeed very quickly? Was there pressure to just do everything all at once?
Honestly, I never felt pressure, not even from myself. What I mostly felt was just desire and sort of a need to become as advanced as humanly possible in opera. I started studying, let's say, just singing when I was 6 years old because, again, I just had this desire, this urge to sing. And my parents thought I would probably do really well in that kind of setting, having a lesson a week and actually practicing every day for an hour every day. I was very diligent, and when I was 10 years old, I officially fell in love with opera and always knew, in a sense, that my voice was probably going to go into something a little bit more heavy than like musical theater or just pop. And when I was 13 years old, I made that official decision to really become an opera singer. And I never looked back. So for me, I don't know, even nowadays, even pressures that I could possibly receive, I don't really allow that to affect my mentality when it comes to opera, because it's just something I get pure enjoyment from.
That's really a wonderful answer, because I'm always speaking with my colleagues who are in conservatory. One thing that they have trouble balancing sometimes is this sense of their goals versus the expectations that can sometimes crush us.
Yeah.
Sometimes to the extent of having a hard time getting to the instrument or practicing.
Yeah, for sure.
So about the Met, there are the HD broadcasts.
Yes.
Is that an added element of something that you are aware of or feel maybe a little bit more nervous about?
Honestly, I feel more excited about them because I know that it's reaching a wider audience. The Met HDs are not only reaching movie theaters in the US, but also all around the world. And it's an amazing thing, especially with social media, when you get responses from those people who are watching it in the movie theaters in like Austria or Italy or France. It just feels more, more worldly. And for me, I do find that exciting because I want opera to be worldly. I want it to reach a much wider audience than just those people who are sitting in the audience themselves. So I always look forward to them, and it actually makes me want to perform better. It gives me sort of a boost of new energy that perhaps I hadn't had before.
What about the idea that these are sometimes archived and you feel like this is for posterity? Is that how I want to represent myself?
I love that. I love anything that's archived. Even if I don't sing perfectly, which, if we're honest with ourselves, that never happens. We're human beings, and we have to sort of accept that reality. At least I try to, even as an opera singer, even as an artist working at sort of a higher level. And I forgive myself for any mistakes I make, even if it is archived. Because that's also part of being an artist. Accepting your successes and also accepting the fact that your failures could possibly, at some point, cater to that success eventually.
I wish you had been my psychological coach as a performer going all along. Had I adopted that attitude earlier on, you must have had some good influences who imparted such a view.
Yeah.
Who were your teachers, if they were the ones who imparted this?
They definitely were. I have two teachers in my life who have been in my life for quite a long time, almost 16 years now. My voice teacher, Cesar Ulloa, who's working in San Francisco, and also my vocal coach, Kamal Khan, who's working here in New York. And they were the ones who, I would say, gave me a lot of this sort of wisdom, let's say, or influenced me in such a positive mentality. But honestly, it was my parents, my mother specifically. My mother's Portuguese, so she's European, which means she's a bit more blunt with everything she says. And so when I was a kid, I was never given sort of an unrealistic viewpoint of what I was doing. I was always told the truth in a very forceful way. And sometimes it hurt my feelings when I was younger. But now when I think of it as an adult, I know that my mother actually helped me in a big sense, because she helped me be grounded. And I would never trade that in for anything else. I always thank her for that. And even today, if I do any sort of performance and she's there, I always either text her in the break or I'll call her afterwards, immediately afterwards, and say, how did I do? Was it bad? Was it good? And I always know she'll tell me the truth. And when she does tell me, actually, it was terrible. it really, no, it makes me, it humbles me, honestly. And I accept the fact that, well, okay, if it was terrible, then next time I'll try to be better, you know? I'll try to be less terrible.
I'm curious to know about what it's like for you on the day of a performance. Mm-hmm. I'm so interested in performance psychology for myself as well, in trying to figure out how to get into the character of the music. Mm-hmm. Leading up to your performances, what is your day like? Is it fraught with anxiety, for example?
No, thankfully not. You know, I think if I were that kind of person where I would feel completely anxious and stressed and obsessing over what's going to happen in a performance, I wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't do it. For me, singing is very much the opposite. It's something that I look forward to because it de-stresses me. It makes me feel more, like myself. Even if there are things going on in my life, things that I'm suffering over or are sad to me, I almost find myself again when I sing and perform, because it gives me that kind of enjoyment and makes me feel sort of normal. Maybe that's because I started when I was so young and it just became part of my daily life, just like eating, drinking, breathing, sleeping. So my day leading up to a performance is very, very normal. I still talk to friends. I still want to sort of go out.
So you don't try to sequester yourself?
Really not so much.
Oh,
unless it's very vocally demanding, then yeah, I'll say, okay, maybe I should, save my voice a little bit leading up to the performance. So maybe I won't hang out with so many friends or have a long conversation. But really, I just try to have it as a normal day, because there are no assurances when it comes to what happens when you perform. It's going to happen or it's not going to happen. There's nothing I can predict, and there's nothing that I can sort of plan for. I've prepared already, and really my only job, or at least this is how I think of it, is to enjoy myself because I know that that enjoyment, that sort of ease in performing is only going to translate to the audience. Therefore, I feel like they themselves will feel comfortable and at ease watching and listening to what I'm doing.
What's the expression? I'll have whatever she's having.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm trying to get a sense of how you relate to your audience. Do you adjust your performance to adapt to a different audience? Or would that not be keeping integrity?
You know what, I think that is part of integrity as an artist, because you do have to keep your audience in mind. A great example is when I made my debut at La Scala. It was in Rigoletto, which is by Verdi, who is a god in the La Scala realm. And La Scala audiences have already developed this sort of reputation as being kind of brutal or also very educated in opera. So I prepared myself before this debut because I knew that all of my colleagues I was working with are Italian, and I would be sort of the odd man out because I'm American. My mother speaks Italian. I've been studying Italian since I was quite young. So I made it my daily task to really study the text before going on stage at La Scala and singing it for the audience, because I wanted them to almost believe I wasn't a foreigner. Because I respect these ears that I'm singing to. And I also respect the fact that a lot of those audience members, I mean, they've been going to La Scala for decades, you know? They know every single person who has come in and out of that theater. And I was right about that, because actually after the performance, thankfully it went very well, but some of the audience members came backstage and they were telling me their story of how they witnessed Callas and Fenice and Pavarotti and these legends, these icons in opera, and how they appreciated the fact that they could hear the work that I did prior to coming in and singing Gerda for them. So yes, I do try to keep them in mind because I'm performing for them, really.
But how's that not intimidating when you think of all the great singers that you mentioned? How is that not intimidating for yourself, having grown up with these recordings, to compare yourself against the great recordings and singers of posterity?
And that's such a good question. And my answer is I never compare myself.
That's great.
I just don't. I really feel like that's sort of useless, because I'll never be able to do what Callas did or Fenice did. Or I can only do what I can do. And that's okay. That's maybe for some people, they won't like it and they perhaps prefer what Callas did. And that's fine. They can stay Callas fans and they can be not my fan. But I know that there are other people out there who do appreciate what I do individually. And all I can do is that. I'm only human. I always think that about artists in general, that we always have to sort of remind ourselves what we are showcasing is really the beauty of imperfection. That is what being human, being expressive is all about. Because in order to be expressive, you do have to show a certain amount of vulnerability, a certain amount of not being confident in yourself. It is a part of that. It's like sort of yin and yang. And I love that. I feel like that's what it's really all about at the end.
If we're talking about confidence issues and trying to construct, as we go along, a growing sense of who we are, I think that involves a certain amount of validation from the people we're trying to connect with, our audiences. But do our artistic successes define our own self-worth humanly? How can that not be connected?
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's a very good question, and maybe my answer will be complicated.
Was it ever an issue for you, trying to reconcile, they like me today, so I guess I'm pretty good, and I guess I have some self-worth?
I think I would be lying if I said no, that I didn't have those days. But I think I've always had this thought in my head that if I fail, or if I don't want to do this anymore, should I ever want to give up singing because it doesn't make me happy, thus maybe labeling me to some people as a failure, would I be okay with that? And the truth is, yes, I would. Because singing is something that I do. It is one part, one aspect of who I am. It's not everything. Therefore, if I do fail, my entire integrity or self-worth or confidence is not fully taken away from me just because of that one failure. I'm allowed to fail. I give myself that allowance. As I think all people should. I think that that's really beautiful, actually. And I love that, I really love that part of myself.
But actually, as I hear you speaking about the nature of vulnerability and imperfection, it doesn't really sound by that definition that you can fail. It just seems like part of a bigger picture. But what about reviews? Does that enter into the picture? Are you afraid to open the paper to look what the reviews say?
No, I'm not. Not at all. I actually find it, I find it really enjoying, actually, amusing in a way. Because I guess I grew up with criticism all my life. You know, one experience I had, I was 10 years old and I sang the national anthem. Well, I tried to sing the national anthem for a Marlins game in Florida, where I'm from. And something happened, my voice like cracked, or I don't know. And so I came off of the baseball mound and met up with my mother, and my mother said, "Oh my God, that was horrific." And she really made it sound like I had killed somebody. It was so dramatic, you know? But this experience for me, I don't know, it just, it made me take criticism, especially small criticism, lightly.
That's a pretty devastating statement, though.
Right? Yeah, and I was so young, and it did, I guess, leave a little scar on me, but I'm happy she did that, because she gave me tough love. Therefore, I give myself a little bit of tough love. And I guess I allow others to give me that as well. Because those people who do write these reviews, that is their job. It's their job to give their opinion. So why should I be offended by what they're doing?
How about the notion that everyone on YouTube can leave a comment? So if we think of a young up-and-coming performer, a primary way to reach a new audience is through a select few videos.
Right.
And then, as we very well know, a lot of the comments that are left can be not just unkind, but really on a level that's hard to reason with if you want to address that. But how do you not get affected by some of the extreme comments that are ubiquitous?
So I set apart normal criticism and these extreme comments that you're talking about, which I define as bullying. When I see those kinds of comments, which I have seen on my feed, actually, and I do have a few people who, it's funny, they are these sort of internet bullies or internet trolls, let's say, who are trolling all of my videos, and they watch every single video, yet leave these nasty comments on every single one. And I think, well, if you hate it so much and it's so disgusting to you, why are you watching?
That's an interesting question.
Right?
Right.
So then I think I almost have compassion for the person. Because, and I laugh about it, because why take something that obviously they're probably struggling with behind the computer screen or behind their phone that I have nothing to do with? Why take that to heart? So really, I try to practice just compassion for people who leave comments like that, because it really, at the end of the day, in my mind, probably doesn't have so much to do with me. It probably just has to do with themselves.
Following along with the theme of external judgment, you did a lot of competitions when you were younger. How did that not translate to a sense that succeeding, as you did many times at these competitions, is about seeking the approval of others and being correct?
Oh, goodness. I had this conversation once with Marilyn Horne, who is a wonderful mentor for me and has been since I was 17, 18. And I asked her this question once because I was 20 and I wanted to do the Met competition, but I thought, am I too young? Is this really something I should be going for? Because the judges will probably just see me as this young, green performer. And I asked her, should I even do it because of that? And she said, Nadine, don't go into anything with any expectations. Just have fun, enjoy. And also, if you're auditioning, should you not get anything from it, it's just a learning experience for you, and it's just experience in general where you can practice, let's say, building self-confidence, practice performing for people, not necessarily auditioning. And I thought about that and I said, God, she's so right, because without having those expectations, therefore I will not have that stress. And that's what I did. I did that for every competition I ever went for. I just didn't expect anything from it. I didn't expect to go to the next round, or I didn't expect to win. I didn't even expect them to like me. So maybe for me, there's a sense of, I don't really care what they think. I just want to do what I love. And if they like what I do, then great. And if they don't, well, then they don't.
What do you say to young people who come to you and ask you whether they should do competitions?
Absolutely. I tell them to go for it. And I actually do pass on these words of Marilyn Horne of just not expecting anything, because I really feel like it was the best advice anyone has given me in the business. Because I carry that with me, not just in that setting, let's say, which is my past, but I carry it in my present. Like yesterday, I just did a performance at the Met Figaro, and I just go into it with no expectations, because I'm only human and I can only do what I can do that day. And hopefully people like it, because I'm giving it to them. I'm sharing it with them. That's all I'm doing. And it's funny when I do tell this story to young singers, their reaction is, oh, I never thought of it that way. Because we are sort of programmed to think, I have to please, I have to cater, I have to. But really, what are you pleasing at the end of the day? What is the goal at the end of the day? Is it just to please those few people on the judging panel, or is it to share something of yourself that you were obviously born with? You know, it's something in a way I feel like you're meant to do. So therefore, why question anything that anyone has to say if you're born with it?
Okay, so I look at your career so far, and it seems like there's been so much success along the way. If we think of perhaps the value of struggle against adversity as a vehicle for growth, that could also be part of the equation. But I'm wondering, has there been any aspect of this life that has been a struggle for you so far?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm always so willing to talk about it because it is reality. The number one difficulty I would say is traveling so much and never really having a sense of where home is. For me, because maybe I'm a Latina or I come from this family who's very loving and very close, I really cherish that sense of community from my family and also from my friends. And when I don't have that working and on the road, I do feel kind of lonely and sad. And I have actually thought about, how much do I want to perform now out of the year outside of where I live? Because is that going to make me unhappy, therefore not making me enjoy what I do in life, which I don't want that. And I find a lot of artists, they see that that's there, but they don't do anything about it. And they let it sort of just fester, and keep continuing. And I am not like that. I really try to tackle problems that I have in my life if it's affecting the way I see my career. And how I enjoy my career. So I have had talks with my agent where I've said, I might want to just slow down in this period of the year or maybe not do so much performing here and here because I would like to be at home. I would like to have a family one day. I would like to feel some roots underneath me.
Well, let me ask you this. On a basic level, is it important to have a sense of home, a sense of groundedness, a sense of belonging?
Oh my God, yes. I really think so. I think so. Because, I'm reading this incredible book. It's called Heart Intelligence. And they did a study, which I think is really fascinating, how the heart, let's say a couple, when a couple is together and there's a lot of trust and a lot of companionship, intimacy between the two. They did a study where the two people, their heart rhythms, their heart rates synced up.
I've read this book.
You
it's
have?
Fascinating, yes.
Okay, so
yes.
you understand.
Yes, it is really amazing, actually.
It is really incredible. And I know that there's truth to that because I can feel that. When I'm home, when I'm with my parents occasionally or my friends, I'm immediately uplifted and I have a more optimistic and positive sense of what I'm doing and this feeling of belonging somewhere. I think it's inhuman to not belong. I think that's what we are as humans looking for at the end of the day. And those who don't find that eventually at some point become self-destructive. And I don't want that. I want something else, yeah.
Nadine, what's your favorite repertoire to sing?
I love bel canto. I love Italian music, period. So I love Donizetti, I love early Verdi. My favorite opera to sing by far is Lucia. I really love it.
What is it about this music that resonates with you so much?
Okay, here's one aspect. I'm sort of a vocal technique geek. I understand that humans are imperfect, but I do love it when you come across a phenomenon in vocal performance that sort of, I don't know, defies the laws of vocalism. And there's one person in general whom I really love, and I listen to her a lot, is Mariella de Villa. She's an Italian opera singer, and she's still singing these roles at like 66, 67 years old.
Right.
And she sings so perfectly in a technical way. She sings only bel canto, really. And I love that so much because it makes me challenge myself to maybe not copy what she's doing, but to be inspired by what she's doing, and do it myself. So with Lucia, for instance, I love singing it because it is so challenging vocally. And I do like proving myself wrong. If I do have that moment of, can I do this? But there's that voice that says, of course you can, just try. Try, and even if you fail the first time, keep going, and eventually you will get it. So bel canto for me, it always presents a challenge, thus it never being boring or stagnant.
So there is a subject that I wanted to talk about on this show, have not had an opportunity, but it is on everyone's mind in the industry. And hopefully it has not affected you directly, but it concerns the question of how people find their opportunities. And of course, in the world of opera and outside of the world of opera, there have been, in most cases, men in the position of power.
Yeah.
And the question of sexual harassment. Do you get the sense, and your colleagues, that this is pervasive? Is this something that people are aware is going on, or is that the exception?
No, people are aware. People are always aware. They can pretend, but people are aware. And I think even more so now than ever before. I had this guy recently, actually, in an engagement setting that I was doing. He said something to me that I guess was a little degrading or a little demeaning, and he stopped himself. It was incredible. He stopped and he looked at me, and the most sincerest, genuine apology came from him. Immediately said, please do not take what I said in a bad way. You know, I'm just trying to say I think you're a beautiful woman. I really didn't mean it and I thought, wow, my God. I said, it's okay, you know, don't worry. It's fine. Thank you for your apology. So I think people are becoming far more aware and far more intolerant of what it probably used to be. I was lucky, I have to say, when I was a kid, and probably could have had a lot of opportunities for this to happen to me when I was a teenager. Because I was working in opera from the time I was 14 years old. I started being in the opera chorus at Palm Beach Opera. And there were a lot of men around me, and as a teenager, I looked not like a child, I looked like a woman. And actually, I always had the opposite reaction. It was always nurturing and caring and treating me like I was a daughter or a niece or this kind of thing. And even now, I've been very lucky, I have to say.
What are your passions outside of music?
I have a lot of passions, thankfully. I love to do everything that normal women my age do. I love to go out, I love going to movies, I love shopping, I love animals. I even, for this Christmas, I sort of did a little gift to myself, and I donated to an animal sanctuary that's in Florida. And I'm going to visit the sanctuary when I have some time, and visit the animals who were saved from, like, I don't know, the slaughterhouses and these kinds of things. But I don't know. I love to go to the beach. I'm from Florida, so I like to do outdoorsy sort of things. I love to exercise, and I just love to do normal things that make me just me.
Nadine, it's been a pure pleasure
Oh,
to meet
thank
you. Thank you
you.
for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I had a great time.
Thank you.
Awesome. It was fun.
Yes.